Hi, and welcome to Preview. My name is Guy Giampapa. Preview.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cue Guy.
Hello and welcome to Preview. My name is Guy Giampapa. You know, with the passing of Dave Maynard about a couple of weeks ago, brings to mind the passing of John Henning about a year and a half ago. Well, John was such a great man. He was the Walter Cronkite of Boston news. And I thought, well, I did an interview with him, and I would like to show you that once more. But before we do that, there's a lot of theater and movies going on in Boston, and I'd like to talk about that first. They were the critically acclaimed stars in the West End touring Tony Award-winning revival of Kiss Me, Kate that was eventually recorded for public broadcasting. Now they're back together in an exclusive two-act concert called Isn't It Romantic? The show features two-time Ernie winner Rachel York. Her co-star Brent Barrett is an LA Drama Critics Award winner and Olivier Award nominee. The two stars of this concert of love songs performed at the Greater Boston Regal Music Theater. The songs are a medley from the Great American Songbook, from Broadway musicals and from the movies. How can you go wrong with a setup like that? The voices of York and Barrett are the best, and they shine throughout this show. Isn't It Romantic was an idea created by the two talents. With a friendship that goes back 20 or more years, it was inevitable that they should combine their talents. Bob Eagle, artistic director of the Regal Theater, has called them fabulous talents with chemistry that's unparalleled. Who can argue with Eagle, who has continued to bring the area unsurpassed talents such as these? He's been doing it for 44 years. Isn't It Romantic is in keeping with Mr. Eagle's assurance of high-quality entertainment in the Boston market. First came the cartoon in the New Yorker magazine, then a television series and a movie which followed. And to top it off, Broadway saw fit to make a musical out of the Addams Family. Following a successful New York run, the Addams Family hit the road and played on the stage of Boston Shubert Theater. A cast headed by Douglas Gills as Gomez and Sarah Gettelfinger as Morticia bring this zany family to life. If the story sounds like you've heard it before, you're correct. It seems the Addams' daughter, Wednesday, wants to marry Pugsley, a very straight and proper young man from a normal family. She asks her father not to tell Morticia, since this is so unorthodox to their way of living. Her fiancé's family are nothing like the Addams. Now, does it sound familiar? Sounds a bit like the Fockers, or to a point similar to La Cage aux Folles. But aside from that, the Addams Family is a lot of fun, especially with the different characters, Grandma, Uncle Fester, Pugsley, and Lurch. The set design and direction is by Julian Crouch and Phelim McDermott, who make good use out of the curtain opening and closing. They do it on cue. There is puppetry action with one of the curtain tassels, and we credit Basil Twist for that action. All in all, I enjoyed the Addams Family, a perfect show for the entire family. Following the world premiere in Boston, Monsters, a midlife musical meltdown, the smash hit musical has made a triumphant return to Arlington's Regent Theater, where it begins a run on February 25th through March 10th. Just imagine it's your 40th birthday and you receive a visit from your personal demon. Samantha, who is a Manhattan stockbroker, is paid a visit by her domineering mother. She plans to quit her Wall Street job and venture into a soul-searching adventure, but her mother's reaction to this brings out the monsters in Samantha. Poor Samantha is dragged into a riot, showdown of wills and determination. A mysterious package and sexy birthday singer skyrocket the antics into a full-blown, hilarious midlife crisis. With some highly energetic music and side-splitting lyrics, Monsters asks the question, have you faced your demons? This production of Monsters features renowned Boston actress Cheryl McMahon of Arlington, who originated the role of Mother. The date is February 25th through March 10th at Arlington's Regent Theater. Tickets are available by visiting www.regenttheater.com or by calling the box office at 781-646-4849. Chita Rivera is coming to Boston. The two-time Tony Award winner will be at the Shubert Theater on Friday, May 4, performing songs from her legendary Broadway career in her own concert called Chita Rivera, My Broadway. All proceeds from this show will go to Boston Youth Moves. The Producers Circle of this organization will present this extraordinary one-night-only event. According to Boston Youth Moves co-director Jeanette Neal, we are honored for the opportunity to share this living legend, Chita Rivera, with Boston. Chita's generosity generosity and commitment to fostering the next generation of young artists has led to this eventful one-night-only performance to benefit Boston Youth Moves, and we couldn't be more thrilled. The New York Times says Chita Rivera has a gleam in her eye, a smirk on her lips, and a bounce in her step. You leave the show walking on air. Who can argue with that? Chita Rivera has it all. Tickets are on sale now for this eventful performance at the Schubert Theater for one night only, May 4th. Mark your calendar. Turner Classic Movies, the cable television company that brings us classic films, has just announced the 70th anniversary event screening of Warner Brothers' most romantic film of all time and its exclusive showing in selected theaters across the country. Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman are the stars of Casablanca. You can now enjoy this all-time favorite movie on the big theater screen on Wednesday, March 21st. It's a one-day event, and it will also feature a special introduction by Robert Osborne with behind-the-scenes footage and rare interviews associated with the film. Don't miss this one-day event, and check your local newspapers for the announcement. Casablanca in select movie theaters on Wednesday, March 21st. John Henning was a New York boy, having been brought up in Queens and Brooklyn. When he was a young man, after college down in the New York area, he came to Boston, and he went to school at Boston University. When he finished there, he took an internship at Channel 2 here in Boston. From there, he worked at Channels 4, 5, and 7 in the news department. And in all that time, John Henning was a marvelous newsman. He was what I call the Walter Cronkite of Boston television. He was a remarkable man. He stood 6 foot tall, and 6'5" in height, but he was taller than that, really, in real life. He was a marvelous man, and he died about a year and a half ago. But let's take a look back at an interview I did with him in about a year and a half ago. Here's John Henning.
Welcome to our show,
nice to see you.
It's so good to see you again.
Been a long time.
It's been an awful long time.
Yeah.
My God, 64?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a long time.
That's when you and I started working together at Channel 4.
That's
Channel
right.
7.
Channel 7.
I've been to so many.
I know.
The
Well, you worked at 4 television stations in Boston, right?
Actually, well, if you count Channel 5 as HDH and CVB, it's 5
It's
television
5 then, yeah.
Because I did the last newscast on the old WHCH on Morrissey Boulevard on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And then Bill O'Connell and Ted Miller and I went out to Needham and did the first newscast ever on CVB.
Is that right?
At 5 TV Place out there. So that would be 5 stations, yeah.
But that's interesting that where you worked at so many stations and you saw the difference in the operations of each one. Now, I won't ask you which one was your favorite. That's not fair. But I do want to ask you about WGBH. You were there how long were you there?
On and off for about 5 years.
Yeah.
I came up here to get a master's degree from BU. And it was on a scholarship program where you work for Channel 2, learning the business, and they paid your tuition to BU, which was a terrific program at the time. And I did everything for them. I helped the lighting director out. I was a stage manager for a lot of their big Mrs. Roosevelt's program out at Brandeis. I was the stage manager for that. And was there when John Kennedy announced that he was going to run for president in January of 1960. And then I had to go into the service and do my time. I was supposed to do 2, but they called me up and said, if you come in now, you only have to do 6 months. I'll say, I'll be there day after tomorrow.
Lucky you.
In 61, I went in the service, came back. Channel 2 burned down the day before I was supposed to come up, and when they had their big studios over in Cambridge near MIT. Yeah. And then I started doing some sports for them, some news, and then in December of 64, I went over to Channel 7. They offered me a job, and I grabbed it to get in commercial television because they were paying a lot more than educational television was. Well,
now, when you came to Channel 7, I'm not sure, at that time, were we still doing off-camera news?
No, we were doing a 15-minute newscast at 6 o'clock, and then a 10-minute newscast at 11.
At 11.
And it was live. There was a live anchor.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do more street reporting. I did a lot of street reporting for them, mostly on the gangland wars in the middle 60s, and then I started covering some politics for them. It was still film, of course, and we were in the studio. Everybody knows Channel 7 is in Government Center now, but we were on Brookline Avenue in the old Hotel Buckminster in those days, which was a wild place.
Oh, yeah, we had those dingy studios downstairs.
Yeah, and you could get down, there was a bar in the basement, and you could get down to the bar without leaving the building. You go down the back staircases.
Right. Well, do you remember when we did a live telecast in the bar? Daily show?
John Callahan used to do station breaks from the bar.
God,
the bartender would say, "Shut up," and John would go, "WNAC TV." They put a microphone right down there. So it was It was kind of crazy, but it was a great place to work.
Well, you and I were talking before we went on the air about some of the people that worked there at that time that are still in television.
Yeah.
Joe Sullivan, George Meadows isn't, but you had some great names.
Dave Rodman is still around. He later went with the district attorney's office.
Right.
Parmer Payne, who we've seen recently living up in Maine,
Yep.
he later went with CBS Radio News in New York. Let's see who else people would know.
They probably
Al Benjamin.
Oh yeah. He's a State House reporter.
He was a State House reporter in the '60s, and then owned a paper up in Vermont.
Oh, I didn't know
for
that.
years. He was publisher and editor. He just he still owns it, but he turned over the reins to his subordinates. So there's a lot of them still around.
Yeah.
And then it was Roy, Jim, and Gus. Gus Sanders, who just died,
Yeah,
was
he
a
just
big
passed
part
on,
of Channel
yeah.
7. And Mary Sparks was there.
Oh yes, yeah.
So it was. You'd really have to go back to remember all these people, but it's over 40 years ago. Yeah.
Well, I often said I was going to write a book about my times at Channel 7. I had 25 years and 6 months there.
Yeah.
And to hear those names brings back so many memories.
Yeah.
Now, Channel 7 just had a reunion about a week ago,
Yeah,
and I understand you attended.
Well, they were supposed to have it out at the Stockyard in Brighton, and so many people responded. Stockyard said, we can't handle that bigger crowd, so they moved it to Florian Hall in Dorchester, the firemen's reception center there on Hallett Street. About 115, 120 people showed up.
That's a pretty good crowd.
From it's a great crowd from over all those years because it's been through about 3 or 4 ownerships since it was, when you and I worked there, it was owned by RKO General Tire.
That's right.
And then was owned by David Mugar for a while, and now Mr. Anson owns
from
the
Florida.
station. So there's been a lot of changes. A lot of people, some of the stories had some vituperation and some bad memories, but that's the way it goes in the broadcasting business. I always tell, Mary Richardson reminds me that I told her once, if you haven't been fired once in this business, you haven't worked in it too long.
She was a sweetheart.
Oh, she was. I enjoyed working with her, and she's still doing very well with the
Is she up in Vermont now?
No, she's still down in... she's still doing that half-hour Chronicle on Channel 5.
Oh, Mary Richardson. I was thinking Mary Sparks. Yeah, you're right,
no.
Mary Richardson.
You know who came down? Barbara Boren. Remember Barbara?
Yeah, the first female news anchor. Sports anchor in Boston.
She is in Portsmouth, Vermont, New Hampshire, selling real estate. She was in very, very involved in democratic politics in New Hampshire. So she and I had a long conversation about what was going on in politics. I hadn't seen her in years.
My God, that's a name that I had forgotten.
Yeah, I don't think people don't remember the shoot. That was a real breakthrough. I mean, you have Tina Savasio and all the women working on the sidelines now. This is 30-some-odd years ago. She was anchoring sports on Channel 7.
Well, do you remember there was a controversy about her going into the locker rooms?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why they hired her, to start the controversy and bring more viewers and see what happens.
John, were you there when we had the 7 weather girls?
It was just before me.
That was
they missed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yes.
That was a
but
real
Joe Sullivan tells some wonderful stories. He was the director of the broadcast. But they used to come down a big staircase.
That's right.
I was in
the lobby,
the station when they were performing, but I was not working for the station at that. It was just before I came over to Channel 7. They used to wear gowns and come down a long stairway into the... And none of them knew anything about weather.
Oh, no, it was awful. Well, one of the girls of the 7, I think one really went into TV news, Marilyn Rockefeller.
That's right, Marilyn Rockefeller later on.
Did she go to New York?
Yeah, she worked here in the late, up to about 1968, and then she went to New York. I think she was at WCBS in New York.
Yeah, for a while, yeah. Well, interesting. Well, you spent, you were at Channel 7 twice.
Right.
Right, from 1964 to 68.
And from then 77 to about 81.
What happened in between?
Well, I went over to the old Channel 5, WHDH, in 1968, and stayed there for the last 4.5 years it was on the air. And when they took the license away from them and gave it to CVB people, I started working for CVB and worked there for the first 5 years they were on the air. Then I got an offer from Channel 7 to go back and anchor the 6 and the 11, and I went back there for 4.5 years, anchored with Mary Richardson and Jack Cole.
Oh, yeah, I remember Jack Cole.
And then they decided to make some changes. We had big differences of opinion about what should go in the newscast. I'm not going to tell you who I think was right, but I think you can figure that out.
I think I know.
And then Cy Yanoff called me up from Channel 4 and said, if you're unhappy, why don't you think about coming over here? And we want you to do mostly politics. So for the past The last 25 years that I worked in television, I was doing nearly all politics. I had done it for years,
right.
but they wanted to concentrate on it. Now, of course, most stations have dropped their political coverage, which I think is awful, in favor of celebrities and coyotes loose in the sun.